We haven't mentioned AI so far, but the horizon, I mean, we are at the edge of the cliff. We are very close to the point when whether you think about the world in terms of power or whether you think about the world in terms of stories, it's going to shift. The control of these is going to shift to AI. AI is the first technology in history that can take power away from us. Every previous tool, stone knives, atom bombs, they empowered us because a decision about how to use them could only be made by a human being. An atom bomb cannot decide who to bomb. An autonomous weapon system can decide by itself who to bomb. A social media algorithm decides by itself what news to show you or what stories to show you. And so it is already taking power away from humans. For the first time in history, we are losing power as a species at a very rapid pace. And similarly, we are also losing control of the stories that we believe. And AI is the first technology in history that can create stories by itself. People compare it sometimes to the printing press, but it's a completely different thing. A printing press can only copy my ideas. I write something and then it can create 1,000, 1,000,000 copies. It cannot write a single line by itself. But AI can. And I think very soon we will reach a point when the stories that dominate, if we are not careful, the stories that dominate the world, ideologically, politically, religiously, will be composed by a non-human intelligence.
Is that not inevitable?
As a historian, I tend not to believe in inevitability. Again, at the present moment, 2024, we still have control of the direction that AI is developing, but I don't know for how many more years. If we don't do anything, then yes, I think that in, 10 years, the stories that dominate the world will, for the first time in history, be the product of a non-human intelligence.
This is happening, I assume this is happening actually faster than what you anticipated when you wrote Homo Deus.
Yeah, it's when I wrote Sapiens in 2014, I hardly thought about AI at all. I mean, in 2014, just 10 years ago, AI was the domain of science fiction and of a very small community of experts. Right. I wrote Homo Deus in 2016, and I got really interested in AI around that time. And still, I couldn't imagine that we will be where we are right now in 2024. I thought it would take us much, much longer to get to a situation with the capabilities that now say ChatGPT or GPT-4 have. It's moving faster than I think almost anybody expected. And really, we haven't seen anything yet. Like, thinking about it in terms of, say, kind of organic evolution, so the AIs of today are basically like amoebas. They are just the first tiny creatures at the beginning of a new evolutionary process. But digital evolution is millions of times faster than organic evolution. It took billions of years to get from the first microorganisms to dinosaurs, to T-Rex. But to get from the AI amoebas to AI T-Rex could take maybe just 10 years. Now, if ChatGPT is the amoeba, just try to imagine what the AI T-Rex of 10 years from now would look like.
Now, the history that you write about is full of incremental change, and it's also full of discontinuities. Mm-hmm. But there's no logarithmic change in the histories that you write.
Yeah.
This is that.
Because we are shifting from an organic to an inorganic world.
Yes.
We are organic beings. Again, we constantly go back to the body. Even our mind, our imagination is ultimately the product of organic processes. So we think on an organic time scale. And AI is not an organic entity. It plays by a completely different set of rules, both in terms of the time scale of how fast it changes and develops, and the limits on what it can do. Like if you take, for instance, the game of Go, so people played Go for 3,000 years in a particular way, and entire traditions and schools of thought and wisdom of generations. And within a few years, first AlphaGo and then AlphaZero just, opened up completely new territories of how to play Go that never occurred to any human being for 3,000 years. And this is likely to happen more and more with art and politics and religion and every field that AI will enter.
So what's most vulnerable given those changes? Is it the nature of our democracy? Is it the nature of our society? Is it the nature of religion? Is it our economic systems? What do you think is most vulnerable? Not 20 years out, but like 1, 2, 3, 5 years out. Mm-hmm. Where do you think we need the most focus for resilience, for example?
I'm not sure, but I would say that democracy and finance are two of the weakest links. Democracy, because democracy is a conversation. And AI has hacked our conversations. It has mastered language. It is now able to produce texts and to deepfake voices and to increasingly even create intimacy with us. It has no feelings of its own yet, but it is able to fake intimate relations. You meet someone online, you are no longer able to tell whether it's a human being or an AI. Now, over the past 10 years, there was this big battle for human attention over social media. Now the battlefront is shifting from attention to intimacy. If you want to change people's minds about anything, intimacy is the key. And AI is learning how to press our emotional buttons better than any human being. And under these conditions, the conversation could simply collapse. Just think about the public sphere being flooded, not with a few hundred or a few thousand AIs, but they can be mass-produced. Hundreds of millions of AIs being able to hold a conversation better than the average human being.
Infinite patience, engagement.
No emotions of their own, so they are never angry, they are never fearful, they are never bored, they are just 100% focused on you, on hacking your emotional system. The longer you interact with it, like you meet somebody online and you have an argument about climate change or the US elections or whatever, and it's a bot. Now, for you, it's a complete waste of time. I mean, you're not going to change the bot's opinion on anything. It's a bot. But every minute you spend talking with this bot, it gets to know you better and better, to hone its arguments, to forge an intimate relationship with you. This is a social weapon of mass destruction. It could potentially destroy trust between people and destroy the ability to have a conversation.
And that is already happening. We see that happening with social media today.
Yeah, I mean, one of the kind of key questions to ask, any tech executive or whatever is just explain to me, how is it that you created the most sophisticated information technology in the history of the world and people can no longer talk with each other? How is it possible? I mean, whatever you think about what's happening in the world, it's clear that the conversations are breaking down. And the fact that it's happening at the same time that we have the most sophisticated information technology in history, it can't be a coincidence. So one possibility, we said earlier that democracy, large-scale democracy, was simply impossible before the 18th century because the technology was not there. It could be that we now have the technology is too sophisticated for the human brain, and that in the new technological era, again, democracy becomes impossible. What will replace it is not clear because dictatorships are also in big, big trouble. We tend not to think about it, but dictators also have problems in life. And,
You were actually sympathetic to the challenges of creating order as a dictator in your book. You were.
And as a dictator, the biggest problem always is how to control your own subordinates. The one thing a dictator never wants to have is a subordinate more powerful that he doesn't know how to control. And AI is exactly that. In the toolkit of
and it's one of the reasons the Chinese are regulating AI so much more strictly.
They're terrified.
Absolutely.
I mean, you think the most effective tool of every dictator in history is fear. How you're Stalin and you want to keep people in line, what do? You terrorize them. How do you terrorize an AI? What will you do? Send it to the gulag? Kill its family? I mean, what can you do to an AI that starts to say things or do things that go against the party line or try to take power away from you? Dictators are in a very, very serious problem, in a way even worse problem than democracies.